I honestly, I wouldn't mind at this point if Caitlyn just started her villain arc. She needs to start putting her foot down because this, like, some of this stuff is getting a little wild. She comes into the WNBA, her biggest life dream to play professional basketball. She comes into the WNBA. She gets a special whistle the opposite way because she's getting fouled and flagrant fouled, and just the defense that they're playing on her is actually insane. Yet despite all that, has an incredible rookie season. And then on top of that, people are using her name for their hidden agendas on both sides. People are just using Caitlyn's name. And then if she says something, it's not enough. If she doesn't say anything, she never wants to speak out about anything. She cannot win.
At last, Caitlin Clark is fed up. And she's not holding back this time. The WNBA believed that her name may be used for influence and ratings, but suddenly the golden star of the league is formally making a line. Clark's most recent remarks about Cathy Engelbert have shocked waves in basketball. What are your thoughts? Did Caitlyn accompany you? Was this long delayed or far? Thus, the players and the WNBA are at odds. For weeks, leadership has been simmering, and it has now at last exploded. It all began with Nafisa Collier's exit interview. 6 whole minutes of unadulterated disorder that fundamentally changed the league's attention away from the championship game. Rather than fans discussing the aces or the Mercury, which everyone is discussing, Cathy Engelbert being called up by Collier and essentially claiming that she lied about Clark. Caitlyn, let's go back in time for a second. Collier stated during an interview in which Cathy Engelbert stated, Caitlyn Clark should be thankful, she said, for the WNBA since, in its absence, she wouldn't have as many endorsements. Bargains. That single sentence ruined everything. Up. The fans went crazy. Other participants began posting about the league, and it entered damage control mode. Next, Engelbert made an effort to clarify. Before to the first finals game, she grasped a lengthy news conference and, let's simply, claim that it was ineffective.
You continue to express that you're disheartened by the characterization of your conversation with Nafisa Collier. Just again, seeking clarity. Did you in fact say that Caitlyn Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything? And do you actually feel that way, that without this platform, players like Caitlyn Clark wouldn't be making what they do off the court?
Yeah, obviously I did not make those comments. Caitlyn has been a transformational player in this league. She's been a great representative of the game. She's brought in tens of millions of new fans to the game. Proud of what she's put on the court. Unfortunately, the injuries held her back from a full season this year. But again, I'm not going to get into every counterpoint. It's not productive here. We're here to celebrate the WNBA finals. I think what Indiana just did was amazing with all the injuries they had and the everything they faced this year, bringing that to a Game 5 in overtime. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot of inaccuracies reported out there, and I certainly did not say that.
She denied ever saying that concerning Caitlyn Clark. Furthermore, she suggested that the version of Collier's, their intimate discussion, was full of, with errors, interpretation. In essence, she called Collier on national television is a liar. That's when everything began to go south. The reason for this is that Nafisa Collier isn't a random player ranting about social media. She belongs to the WNBPA vice presidents, indicating that she is actively participating in the communal negotiations for a negotiating agreement that determine the future pay of each player, timetable as well as advantages.
And at the end of the day, she's worried about her. In all of her statements, it's all like, well, I got us here and I should. And Cathy, no one cares. Literally, no one cares. Like how you're sitting right there, that's how we feel every time she speaks. Every time she speaks, us as players, that's how we feel.
Consequently, when Cathy Engelbert openly brushed off Collier's remarks, she didn't simply treat one player disrespectfully. She insulted a leader of a union. At that point, Caitlyn, she had had enough, Clark decided. Until Caitlyn has been extremely cautious lately. She avoids becoming involved in disputes too soon. She plays her game, keeps her head down, lets the turmoil unfold, and stays away from politics all around her. However, this time, when she was questioned by reporters about Collier's remarks, she made a statement that made everyone freezes. Fee made a lot, I believe, of good points. Boom.
Well, I mean, first of all, I have great respect for Fee, and I think she made a lot of very valid points. And, I think what people need to understand, we need great leadership in this time across all levels. This is straight up the most important moment in this league's history. This league's been around for 25 plus years, and this is a moment we have to capitalize on. So that's honestly what I would say. I think Fee said it all with what she said, and I think the points she made were very valid.
The league fell silent after just one statement, because it wasn't a random line. It was an obvious indication that Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's public face, was selecting sides. And can you really blame her? The league in question has utilized her name to increase TV and sell seats, ratings, and advertise anything you can. Brand collaboration while enabling her to tossed about the court as if it were a wrestling contest. Not to be overlooked is the early contests during her maiden campaign. No one was fouled more forcefully than Caitlin. Elsewhere in the league, she was pushed, elbowed, and hacked, and the referees simply kept. The whistle was swallowed. Individuals were referring to it as physical play. But if those LeBron James suffered the same hits, or Stephen Curry, without charge, tosses once every 5 minutes. Thus, when finally, the commissioner has the opportunity to demonstrate concern for player safety and instead justifies using Caitlin's name, the image of the league, yes, you can comprehend the reasons behind Clark's loss of her patience. This is where it gets insane. Immediately following Cathy Engelbert's, she stated in a press conference that she had been in contact Collier to arrange a private meeting to resolve the issue. However, before that might occur, Collier called off the getting together. She flatly refused to speak to her. The story was first reported by ESPN. Additionally, even stranger, Cathy Engelbert learned not from Collier herself, but from the media. It has become that awful. The commissioner is being informed about the cancellation meetups based on Twitter notifications. And this is in which Caitlin Clark returns to the narrative, due to the fact that when Collier canceled that gathering, a number of participants, including teammates of Clark's such as Lexi Hull, openly backed Collier. They stated she was correct and the leadership was no longer grounded in reality. A complete statement was not posted by Caitlin. However, her behavior spoke for itself. She stopped reposting WNBA content. She didn't mention the finals. She enjoyed a number of fan tweets that are critical of the leadership of the league. Fans took notice. People began referring to it as Caitlin Clark protested silently. Furthermore, to be honest, that's just how it feels. This isn't your typical argument. This is the WNBA's biggest celebrity ever. Has issued the league a warning that made her well known. I can't be used like that, while treating everyone around me with disdain. Before anyone claims that she's overreacting, let's consider the larger picture. Image. The WNBA is currently in the midst of the most crucial CBA negotiation in past. The pay of players is on the line. The likelihood that a lockout may occur is genuine, and ownership organizations are attempting to determine a way to balance the books while giving their stars a higher salary. The issue. Two of the individuals seated at the players' negotiating table, Nafia. Additionally, Collier and Brianna Stewart are co-founders of an alternative company called Unrivaled League for the offseason. That's where there is a conflict of interest. Due to if the WNBA is unable to come to an agreement and in 2026, the league is locked out. Unmatched wins big. Gamers would have had to perform there in order to make cash. So, of course, owners and executives are wary. They believe Stewart and Collier maybe secretly gain from the WNBA stoppage. Additionally, when the commissioner becomes embroiled in a conflict with one of those words it creates, everything appears terrible. That's where. What is the source of Caitlin Clark's frustration? She is keeping an eye on both sides. The players and the commissioner turn her name into one of their battle's pawns. She's attempting to train, heal from an injury, and prepare for the upcoming season. Additionally, each and every, in some way, the headline refers to her. She wasn't invited to this altercation, but now she is the focal point. Consider it. Each and every plot point in this league in some way returns to Clark, Caitlin. Prices for tickets, TV, sponsorships, ratings, and even the CBA discussions. Nevertheless, she's being told that she ought to be thankful for what she receives from the league. That's absurd. Caitlin is needed by the WNBA. Clark needs them far more than she does. Her record numbers of people watch games. Her sales of jerseys were at the top. Even she. More coverage was given to the injured season than the real finals. Nevertheless, the league hasn't discovered a way to keep her safe on how to assist her outside of the court or it. Fans are starting to notice. You sense it on the internet. Annoyance from both casual and devoted supporters. People are becoming aware that the WNBA has among the most significant promotional gifts in sports history and inexplicably continues discovering fresh methods to ruin it. This is the irony. Not even Caitlin Clark is inquiring, seeking preferential treatment. All she wants is equity. She desires permission to play the game without getting caught up in the drama. She is being dragged by politics and media pandemonium. Name around. However, each time she attempts to proceed, the league tosses her back in the limelight, not for her skill, minus the controversy. And now, the patient she used to be quiet with is gone. This rookie's smile isn't from 2024. This veteran has come to terms with that remaining silent is ineffective. By assisting Collier, even in a small way, Caitlin Clark just told the WNBA. Additionally, you're not untouchable. The fallout is just getting started. The players are splitting into two parts. There is a dispute among the fans. On the internet, former stars are also chiming. Said, this could be the most embarrassing period in the history of the WNBA. Cathy Engelbert, meanwhile, is still pretending that nothing is wrong, holding prearranged news conferences regarding the player, alignment and involvement of stakeholders. Her league, however, is on the brink of collapse. It's crazy. A few months ago, individuals were discussing how this was the heyday of the WNBA. Record ratings, expansion teams, and fresh investors. Currently, they're questioning whether there will be a season of 2026. Furthermore, let's face it, that's not on the athletes. It's on leadership. You cannot continue to dismiss valid player concerns, followed by expect them to appear to the media grinning. You cannot possess the most well-known feeling of an athlete in women's basketball, estranged from her own group, and she continues to anticipate that supporters will embrace the Wear One large family advertising campaign. Cathy. Perhaps Engelbert's denial was the last straw, since even in the event that she declined truly express what Collier says, the fact that nobody takes her seriously at everything, she no longer has credibility. Additionally, the worst part is that it doesn't even matter who's no longer. It concerns how awful this was taken care of. WNBA permitted a private conflict turns into a public soap opera in the midst of its championship game. And these days, every headline about women's. It's not about who wins in basketball. Who's lying is the issue. For this reason, Caitlin Clark's tactful yet forceful position hits really hard. She's not yelling. She's not sending paragraphs in tweets. She's simply allowing the quiet to speak. Additionally, that nothing is louder than quiet. At a podium, Engelbert could say anything. The fans sense it. The sponsors sense it. ESPN hosts are even dancing around it. As nobody is able to spin this mess no more. We're witnessing a change in power in real time. The players' recognition that they do not require the commissioner's consent to exert influence. Additionally, Caitlin Clark, regardless of her feelings, she has just become the spokesperson for that change. Now, Caitlin Clark's open support for the WNBA is in full swing with Nafi Sakalier. Panic. Furthermore, they ought to be, since your greatest star, the individual who is actually carrying your league's popularity, begins to imply that she's losing. Have faith in the leadership you're formally in a critical situation. First, let's. The response from fans since, wow, it's been loud. Fans on social media have started to. The public enemy number of Cathy Engelbert. 1. Some threads contain thousands of remarks that read, "Fire Cathy," are sharing her memes with "This adorable puppy is seated in a room on fire. It's cruel." Additionally, fans on both sides, Collier and Clark supporters. There is a real consensus. The league's leaders appear to be completely uninformed. The situation has gotten so bad. Even the individuals who typically quarrel over every little things are unified on Reddit or X. Like this. This is embarrassing. To be fair, though, not all people are totally choose a side. Some individuals are stating, hey, perhaps Collier ought to have retained this confidential, or perhaps Caitlin shouldn't have made any remarks. However, that's kind of impossible now, Being the WNBA spokesperson, silence is interpreted as a declaration. In any case, if Caitlin remained silent, would charge her with disregarding actual problems. Should she speak excessively, they charge her with escalating the drama. Thus, no, regardless of what she does, she's stuck in this unattainable location. To be honest, the league placed her in there. She became the face of everything. They forced her into each advertisements, promotions, and interviews. They made her the focal point of this WNBA plot. Furthermore, now that the story's out of control, they wish to act startled. Please. As if they hadn't. Understand that when you create a single player, the full brand, you also provide her with the authority to influence the public's perception of the league. Additionally, Caitlin Clark uses that electricity in a quiet but efficient manner. You can tell she's given up on being kind. She's clearly sick of having her around. Name brought up in boardroom disputes, opposing league politics, as well as phony speeches about empowerment. All she wants is openness and equity. Additionally, that's just what the supporters desire as well. Now, let's discuss how this might genuinely impact the future of the WNBA. Due to this, is more than a minor PR disaster. This has actual repercussions for company. The WNBA is negotiating its upcoming Accord on Collective Bargaining, the CBA, that determines the amount of money paid to players, the duration of the season, the manner in which works, everything. If these discussions end separated, and that appears to be somewhat conceivable, the league might encounter a 2026 lockout. Hence no games, no season, and no income. For gamers, it would be disastrous. And worst of all, it would occur during the WNBA's greatest expansion period. Past. Investors, sponsors, and, at last, networks are taking notice. The number of attendees has increased. TV viewership is declining. Record heights. Additionally, at the exact moment that are beginning to make sense, chaos. Individuals believed that the effect of Caitlin Clark would bring in a new era for the WNBA. However, with the current state of affairs, the league might really make a full mess of that. Additionally, the press conferences of Cathy Engelbert are not beneficial. She is providing the same generic responses each time. We're listening. Our players are important to us. We're striving for harmony. As you are aware, the typical corporate bullshit. The players are tweeting fire in the meanwhile. Memes and emojis related to silence. There is a total mismatch between reality and leadership. Some even coaches have begun making subtle remarks. On it, White, Stephanie, of the Indiana Fever, head coach, has previously defended Caitlin. She was referred to as a pawn in other people's games. That quotation held up well over time since it's just how this entire scenario feels. Similar. Caitlin Clark's and a gigantic game being transferred without any input. The amusing part, or perhaps the unsettling aspect, is that the league still doesn't appear to get how significant this is a deal. They believe this will blow up after the conclusion of the finals. As a spoiler, it will not, since Caitlin Clark altered the whole power structure of the WNBA. She isn't no longer merely a player. She is a company, an economy, a media machine run by one woman. And when such type of player loses faith, the entire system trembles under leadership. Consider the timing. Collier cancels her encounter with Engelbert. Gamers begin sharing posts about unity. Caitlin is on Collier's side. The commissioner then attempts to appear as though it's all good when reporters are inquiring as to if a 2026 season. That isn't typical. That's a full-scale uprising developing within the WNBA. And the ripple is already visible. Impacts. Sponsors are anxious. Networks are posing inquiries. Even the NBA executives are beginning to discuss if Adam Silver should take any action in and tidy the house, because technically, the NBA continues to oversee the WNBA's operations umbrella. And if things continue, Silver may need to make the trip south. Call that people are avoiding substituting Engelbert Cathy. If it happens, it'll be the league's most significant upheaval never observed. And to be honest, perhaps the moment has come, because regardless of whether you concur with Collier, the reality that a lot of gamers feel unheard gives you all the information you need to understand. What do you think then? Is Caitlin Clark defending the moral high ground? Or is this getting out of hand? Strike, like, follow, and let me know in the remarks.